Well, hello and welcome to our second season premiere. This is so exciting. I can't even believe that we're here. What started as a simple inspiration from the Lord has just grown into something so exciting. So to everyone who has heard this podcast and shared it with a friend, thank you so much for helping us spread this mission of truth, of the value and the high calling and the importance of motherhood and the work that the Lord is doing in homes to change the world for His glory. I'm so glad that you can be here with us today. My baby's here now. When you hear me talk in my other podcast about, when this is aired, our baby will be here. Well, our baby's here. He's not with me at the moment, obviously. But he is such a joy. His name is Graham, and he is just such a treasure. I can't believe he's almost 4 months old. It's gone by so fast, like it does every time. And so wonderful to be starting off this second season of podcasts with one of my very favorite holidays. We are going to be talking about preparing our hearts for Easter. And I know you're going to be so glad that you're here for this conversation. I have two wonderfully inspirational moms with me today. I have my friend Michelle back, and she has 5 sweet kiddos ranging in ages from 4 years old up to 10 years old. And she is a former teacher. She is a wonderful homemaker and a homeschool mom to her kids. And if you would like to follow her, you can find her at The Unhurried Farm on Instagram, and she just celebrates life beautifully. And so Easter is no exception, and you're going to be so glad to hear her wisdom today. Also with me, back again, is a good friend, Becky Slamer, and she is someone who I have watched the way she celebrates Easter and just gleaned from her, so I'm so excited that you get to hear from her as well. She is a mom to 2 teenage kids, so if you have older kids and you're thinking, oh, Easter celebrations, that's for little children. No. She will tell you it is for everyone and that it has just served her family so well. She has 2 beautiful teenage children and serves alongside her husband in a ministry called Crew, reaching out to college students. And if you want to find her, you can find her at Becky Slamer. Again, as you watch her celebrate life, that these women just live celebrating day to day. And I know that you will be encouraged by your time with them here. Hi, friends. Welcome to the Seek Holy Living podcast with Krista Svoboda. I am a wife to my wonderful husband, mom to my 5 precious children, and a friend to some amazing moms that I can't wait to introduce to you. Mothering is not a journey meant to be traveled alone. Join me every Monday for a new podcast where you will find hope, joy, and purpose. Thank you so much for being back with me, Becky. This is so fun.
Glad to be here.
Thanks. And thanks, Michelle, for being with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay, it did just dawn on me. I should give parents a warning if they're listening with little ears, because we're going to talk about all things Easter. So from fun plans during Easter week to the eggs to the bunny. So if you have little ears and you want to keep some of the magic alive in some of the Easter celebrations and you want to keep that just for you, then save this for your evening. But for now, let's get rolling. We're going to talk about Easter. And I think it's such a special holiday to talk about, because I think it's one that holds so many beautiful opportunities. It's just waiting to be made this wonderful time in homes. And our culture, I think, has just cheapened it down to, egg hunts and bunny rabbits. And there's just so much more to this. So, Becky, you want to start? Why does Easter matter so much to you?
Yeah, it matters to me because Jesus is alive and He has conquered death and given us eternal, abundant life. And so that is worth celebrating.
That's wonderful. Michelle,
Yeah.
Easter.
It's the foundation of our faith, obviously Christmas is super important, but yeah, just like you said, it's everything.
Yeah. Well, and I think the idea even that there'd be no reason for Christmas if there wasn't Easter.
Yeah.
That if He came and He died and that was it, then that would be the end. But Easter is the reason that it even matters that we have Christmas. So that's wonderful. So why do you think it's so important to use this week intentionally? think about Advent. You know how we have Advent at Christmas to celebrate the coming of Jesus? Becky, why do you think this Easter week leading up to Easter is such a prime time to use well?
Yeah, I think there's two reasons that come to mind. And one is that it was Jesus's final week. And so as we dive into maybe looking and thinking about his final week, you want to think of somebody's last, days on earth, they're saying some pretty important things. And so I think it's a significant time to just, for us to remember and reflect back on the things that Jesus said and did during his his last week on earth. And then also, like you mentioned, Advent, I think the Lenten season or the Holy Week, the week before Easter, are a great time to prepare our hearts to celebrate the greatest thing that's ever happened, the greatest sacrifice ever given of Jesus dying for us and conquering death. So what more? Why would we not spend the week before preparing our hearts to celebrate and remember that?
Absolutely. And thinking about too, goodness, it could be a little bit convicting even thinking about, do I spend more time in that week preparing the outfits for all of my children or for myself, or making sure my nails are done or my hair's done or whatever it is that you do to prepare for that Easter service? Am I spending more time on those things, on the outward, than I am on our hearts?
Yeah.
And if the focus is on that, like we're missing such a golden opportunity. And I love that it's every year too, because it can become these traditions. I love traditions, and you do too. That it can become something so beautiful that's an expected rhythm in your home.
Right.
So Michelle, what about you? Why do you think it's important to use this week leading up to Easter?
Well, definitely preparing our hearts takes time and intentionality, and I know that whatever we as parents emphasize will make an impact on our kids, so if it's on our hearts, it'll eventually be on their hearts too, and I just think about habits too, and how habits actually form us, and so they have deep formative power when we each year, you can even feel it in the air, the birds are chirping. There's just like a signal that this is about to happen, and we get to remember and celebrate this.
That's wonderful. And I think with that too, the idea that our faith, we don't ever want our faith to just be something that we teach.
Yes.
That it's not just that idea that our faith is not taught, our faith is caught. And that during this time, it's preparing our hearts as well. That's been something that caught me by surprise when I began to make this a purposeful thing in our home. That it wasn't just preparing the hearts of my children for Easter. God was using this week to prepare my heart for Easter, and it made that celebration of Easter morning so much more meaningful because my heart was ripe for that celebration.
Yeah. Which I think is true of any celebration or the feast, the biblical feast, is that God knew we needed to be reminded, and we're forgetful, and we need to do those things regularly to be reminded of his goodness and what he has for us.
Yeah. Well, let's start with the beginning of Easter week. And Becky, I'm going to let you start because I have loved watching your Instagram and the way that you do it, that you celebrate throughout the whole week with your family and even bringing other families in. I feel like you're like the Easter mom goals, the way that you do it for me. And it's not because kids are lined up in perfect outfits. Like that's not the priority of the way that you do it. I just am excited for you to get to share it with people. So walk us through your week.
Okay. Well, one of the things, like you mentioned, first is getting my heart right. And one of the things I've done probably for at least the last decade is Max Lucado has a book called The Final Week of Jesus. And he is a masterful storyteller of Bible stories. And so it's short. It literally walks through the Bible stories of Jesus's last week. And so I pull that out every year and read that and use that just for me. And then my kids and I walk through the gospel stories every day. So what was Jesus doing this day on Sunday? What was Jesus doing on Monday of his last week? And we read those every day together. And on Palm Sunday, we do that, like when the kids were little at church, they did cut out the green, construction paper and made palms that say Hosanna. And my 17-year-old still did that last year. And and put it on our front door because we were at home with COVID. Yeah. And so, so even something simple to just acknowledge the beginning and the celebration of Easter week and Jesus coming in on the donkey.
And that's so simple.
So simple.
That I love too, that no matter what age your kids are, I mean, all you need is green construction paper and a pair of scissors. Exactly. And then anyone can do that. Yeah. We've done it too, where we've gone outside and actually cut them off of the bush, just a leaf, a plant.
Absolutely.
And done a parade outside and said, Hosanna, Hosanna, and walked around. Yeah. And you mentioned the donkey, Jesus coming to town on a donkey, that we've also with that taken turns pretending to be Jesus and pretending to be the donkky, which is kind of funny. And so then we've walked around the house and laid our sweaters down and pretended to be the people. That it's kind of fun to see and imagine what that would be like.
I love it.
And one of my children even one time pretended to tell the story from the donkey's perspective, and someone else told it from one of the people in the crowd's perspective, like what that would have been or being a kid. And there's just so many things you can do with that idea.
Totally.
And it's so simple.
And that reminds me that there's so many good Easter storybooks out there. So if you need some inspiration or if the stories and those things don't come naturally to you, look.
I'll share some on my Instagram actually,
because I
have a few that are for older kids And then I have a few board books too that we really like.
Yeah.
So I'll share those on
Those are
on
great.
Instagram.
So yeah, we have a stack of our Easter decorations. We have decorations for every holiday and books for every holiday. And so those come out, and the kids are excited still because they'll pick up those books and read them even now as teenagers, just, for fun. But then I would say, and then our next, probably the next big thing we do is on Thursday, which Chris, I think you guys do something similar, but on Monday, Thursday, we do communion as a family together at home to commemorate the Last Supper. And then our big thing that you probably have seen on Instagram is our Good Friday party. So several years ago, it morphed into, because we homeschool, we've always celebrated Good Friday with friends, and it morphed into inviting all of our friends that were available at that time, and sometimes even our school friends because they had minimum day that day. They just would come over to our house, and we'd do resurrection eggs that Michelle will talk about later, and we'd make resurrection rolls together where Jesus is the marshmallow, and you wrap him in the crescent roll after dipping him in butter and cinnamon and sugar and putting it in the stove, and when he comes out baked, he's not there anymore, he's gone.
Yes,
he is risen. And so we do that, and then usually my husband does some kind of devotional, and my daughter now leads us all in worship. And so it's morphed over the years where the kids are involved, and now that they're bigger, we do a little bit different focused things than when they were little and we did egg hunts. They don't necessarily do that, but they still do worship and a devotional, and they still want to do the resurrection rolls and the eggs and tell the story, and but they can do it now, so they do a lot of that. And then we all usually go get dinner together and go to Good Friday service together. For those that go to our church, or other people go off to their Good Friday services at their church, which I love Good Friday service at church. I feel like it's one of the, I know it's probably similar to what some other churches do, but ours, just the reflecting and the remembrance really, I feel like is a great place to set our hearts in the right place for Easter weekend. So that's a favorite for me. And then
I'm going to piggyback for just a minute on your communion thing that you do on Thursday to kind of share kind of how we've taken that too with our family. So my children are all very little still, not very little, some are big. So my oldest is 11. So they're 11, 8, 5, 2, and baby. And so nothing looks like Pinterest in our house. When we do events, like the pictures are like, that was the pretty moment of what it was, because everything's kind of messy. But so we always try to imagine what it would have been like at the Last Supper. And we normally sit on the floor, and we have and the kids look forward to it so much. We have our meal on the floor. And I have this dream. I know you said you do a Passover meal, so I want to hear about that in a minute, Michelle, because I have the dream of getting to that point, but not yet. So maybe you'll inspire me and I'll make it happen. Or maybe next year when I don't have a baby. But so we do a special meal on the floor together, and then we do communion together, and we read through the passage of what was happening during the Last Supper, and then we wash each other's feet, and we take turns with who washes each other's feet, and sometimes we'll say a blessing over them, or just do it as something just kind. And with that, I would want to encourage moms too, that if you are in a situation where it just doesn't work with your life with your husband for him to do all these things with you, then do them on your own. And I only say that on this topic because my husband's work schedule is just weird. And so regularly he might not be home in an evening. And that's regularly, I guess for a few years was the case, and I'd never thought about it. I just did it by myself with the kids. And then the first time he was home with us, he said, "Oh my goodness, you guys do this every year. And this is so meaningful." He had seen pictures and I had told him, but he had never been part of it. So I would just want to encourage moms that if your husband's not a believer, or if he's just not available, just do it. You don't have, it doesn't have to be a whole family thing. You can be the one to make those special things happen. And with the resurrection rolls, and you mentioned your daughter taking lead on some of the worship leading and stuff. As your kids want to take lead on things, let them, because that's one of the beauties of them getting older and having caught these traditions is they're able to be the ones to make them happen. And when I started resurrection rolls, it was very simple of just, here's the croissant, the dough, the supplies, here's how we do it. And I told the story, while we did it, and we put them in the oven. Well, now my 11-year-old has just claimed this as his own, and they have puppets that they get out every year, that we have a soldier, we have angel, we have Jesus, and they tell the story, and they post they bring out tape, and they seal the tomb when we close the oven, and they pose a soldier puppet in front of the oven, so it's the whole thing. Anyway, it's become quite the production, but they've claimed it, and they remember it. And it will be so meaningful.
Yeah. And they'll want to keep doing it.
All right, go to your Saturday. What do you do
Okay, Saturday, my husband and my kids have always been a part of Easter service at our church, so they usually have rehearsal on Saturday, so I usually make an Easter brunch for them when they come home from that on Saturday. And then we usually dye eggs that day too. And then Sunday morning, I was just going to make a note about Easter baskets. I think Easter baskets are a great place. Our kids always get something to help them grow in their relationship with the Lord. And that gets a little easier as they get older, but there's still things you can do when they're little, whether it's a book or a movie or whatever. My kids have an animated Passion video that was from Target like 10 years ago that is the best animated Passion video I've ever seen. And so they keep watching it now. But something to help them grow. They always get a chocolate lamb to remind them of the sacrifice of Jesus. And they always get an empty egg that represents the empty tomb. So no matter what else goes in the Easter basket, there's those reminders of what we're really celebrating. And then church and family and food and egg hunt and stuff on Sunday. But yeah.
Something else on the Easter basket topic while we're on that one that we've done is because it surprised me when I actually started adding up how expensive an Easter basket felt like it was times 4 children. That was before I even had a 5th. And I just thought, oh my goodness, this could be a very, very expensive thing to do well, I guess, especially when I don't just want to like load them with all the candy because I don't want them to eat all the candy. So why am I going to give them all the candy to tell them they can't eat it all? So just trying to be intentional. So one of the things that I started doing is always putting a new swimsuit in there for them. I've done that before. And that may not work as my oldest get older. It might have to be like a certificate for, we'll go pick out a swimsuit.
Right.
You can't just pick that out. But that's been a fun way to do like a swimsuit and some goggles or something kind of going off of the idea of what's something that they need anyway that you can put in there. Maybe it's a pair of new pajamas. Maybe it's time to get new jammies. But so that way you're not breaking the bank and still filling it with something that's special.
For sure.
Also,
like
kind of
or just a fun snack that you don't buy all the time, but you would buy anyways to buy them a snack. You know, it doesn't have to be candy.
Yes. And we filled eggs with many things. So Michelle, why don't you talk about your Easter week?
Sure. Well, I'm just seriously enjoying listening to you too. So we, since my kids are 10 and younger, I feel like we've been in the little stage still, and we're like emerging into a little bit more of the bigger kid stage. But so far, what we've been doing are these resurrection eggs, which we bought, maybe when my youngest was 3, and it's been the biggest blessing. It's 12 eggs, and inside, it correlates with a little book that comes with it. And it's just one page, really easy to understand with the verse of one symbol of Passion Week. And it just takes you through. And since we've got 5 kids, we go, through each kid. Okay, this is your night. You get to open the egg after Daddy reads the, description. And they're always, even if they know what's in there, they're just like, so excited about that moment of when they open it. And, so that's been really just a great way to emphasize and go through Passion Week, and very tactile for the little ones, especially. I mean, just like you were saying, my 10-year-old and my 8-year-old are just so, it's still for the littles, but they love it so much too. And I love that. And then on Thursday, our church has always done a Maundy Thursday service. And so we've always been at church for that. And usually it's in the evening. So it's usually just my husband and I. So it's been a really nice and intimate time with our church family, in the evening for that. But, I love moving, doing something more as a family too. We'll have to move in that direction. But on Friday, the last, 12 years of our marriage, we've had a full-on Passover center meal.
It's so cool.
And we've really just loved that. And so typically what it is we don't have all the fancy plates that go along with it. You can get as fancy as you want. But it's every part of the meal has a symbol along with it. And, of course, the main course of the meal is lamb shoulder. And so that roasts for a good 4 hours, but I have to get it ready even 2 hours before that. So it's just, we're looking forward to it all day, and it's just smelling up the house so wonderfully. And that, of course, represents Jesus and what he did for us, his sacrifice on the cross. And really quickly, we have salt water where we dip some bitter herbs like parsley or dill or whatever that symbolize the bitterness they experienced in captivity. The Israelites, they dip it, and the salt water represents the tears that they shed, that they were in slavery. And there's haroset, which is like a ground up mixture of apples, walnuts, honey. I mean, I always make extra because my kids just love that. They're like, yay. So, and that, there's actually different meanings for it when you look online or just in a book, but really it's like tasting the sweetness, that Jesus is sweet, like the honeycomb, and then I cheat a little bit and make a little side of mashed potatoes because it just goes well. And it helps fill up our tummies
fill the
too.
meal, right?
Yeah. And what am I forgetting? There's a couple more. Forgive me, I can't remember at this moment. But I just loved. We take time and really just go through. Oh, wine is one, or grape juice, obviously for the kids, and Jesus's blood. So, and matzah bread. That's the other one I'm forgetting. Which the symbol of that is the Israelites were able. They were. Released from their slavery so quickly that the bread that they had didn't rise fast enough. So it's unleavened bread. And so, I just love tying in the Old Testament with the New.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
And really just such a deep tradition, and just getting your senses into it, and just looking forward to that. And that's been a fun thing that we've invited some families, we've kept it to one family until, maybe in the future we'll do more just because of, like lots of little ones and stuff.
For it to have meanings. That's a tricky thing with young children is sometimes bringing in more people sometimes makes it so exciting that it like takes away the meaning of what the actual thing was.
It's true.
Because I know that's temporary though.
Yeah. So and then
beautiful.
That's been a real like cornerstone for us, I think. And then on Saturday we'll do our Easter egg hunt, for the kids. They love that. And Sunday we're at church, and my mother-in-law is Polish, and so she does a Polish Easter for us.
Cool.
And so it's really fun. We've kind of like just enjoyed that aspect of our family's culture. So that's what we do.
That's really cool. Okay, so the bunny. Let's talk about the bunny. I feel like I should sing the old VeggieTales song.
I know.
That's what I say. The Easter bunny specifically. Okay. Do you guys do that? How do you like carry that balance of like, this is about Jesus. This is really important, but also there's the bunny. Like, how have you done that?
I mean, for us, it's kind of been in the same category as Santa Claus. We're just like, yeah, that's fun, but we don't emphasize it. That's just us, and we don't speak down on it or anything like that. It's just not been what we've embraced, I guess.
Yeah.
I would say we're similar. It's something fun, but it's not the main focus. But, maybe I can transition here though, Krista, but I think the cultural bunny, egg, all those things, I do embrace using those things as symbols and kind of redeeming them is kind of my perspective. Awesome. And that the lamb, we see lambs at Easter, you'll see those in the stores, that when I've taught my kids since they were little, when you see the lamb at Easter, that means Jesus, that represents Jesus as a sacrifice. And eggs and bunnies and all those things all represent new life.
Yes.
And so all the things of spring that we see in the store and bunnies and eggs. So when they see those things at Easter and at springtime, they're not thinking that's just something fun. They're thinking those things remind me of new life in Jesus.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And we've done the same thing.
Yeah.
We do with the bunny have done things where we've like left chewed carrots
That's
like
awesome.
by the Easter baskets.
Yeah.
So it's like, look like, oh, wait a minute, something going on here. Or
That's
left. I
great.
think that once I left like dirt prints, like me little dirt prints on the ground to make it look like there was like a bunny or something. But it's just a silly
I've
thing.
heard of the flower prints, leaving flower prints.
Yes, all the white.
Yeah.
So that's fun, just silly.
Yeah.
One other thing we've done, we normally have church really early on Sunday morning. So the idea of getting everybody up and out early and ready to go is I have often covered the baskets up with a blanket. And then when they come out that morning, they're there, but we don't actually do baskets till we're home. So that way it doesn't have to be rushed and everyone doesn't have to be up as early. And I feel like it's kind of also setting the priority that like, yes, this is fun, but this is really what it's about. That's great. So that's just another thought.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is being released on a Monday. And Easter's not until Sunday. So there's still a lot of time, I think, that you could make a Passover happen. Or you could order resurrection eggs. I mean, they come in 2 days, right? Amazon? I mean, most people, unless you're in some like far off place in the country, sorry if that's you. Or in another country. That's a whole different story. But you could order them and have time to make it happen. So what advice would you give to the mom who maybe is feeling kind of overwhelmed about Easter being around the corner, but really wants to like make it meaningful because it's important? Becky, what would you say?
I'd say start simple. So pick one thing. If maybe it's buy an Easter book for your kids that's appropriate for their age, or buy the crescent rolls and make the resurrection rolls, but just pick one thing to start with if it feels overwhelming, or pick something meaningful to go in their Easter basket. So just pick one thing to start with.
What would you say, Michelle?
The same. And whatever you can do for a consistent amount of time, even if it's 5 minutes a day. Like I feel like the resurrection eggs are such a great thing. Like in full transparency, there's been times where we've started too late. Like I didn't count 10 days before, 12 days. Yeah. So I'm like, guys, got to do 2 today, but they don't mind.
No.
They're like, yay, 2 today.
Yeah.
So, whatever, it's not about being legalistic or perfect about it. It's just that you're putting it out there for your family. They see your heart's in it, and
And I was just going to add too. Even if you don't buy anything or do anything, just reading Jesus's last week together, and doing that. Jesus Storybook Bible is a fantastic resource, and so reading those stories of Jesus's last week together with your kids can be intentionally focused.
It's very understandable too. Yeah. Another thing I think you could do through the week, or even just the few days leading up, is singing. That bringing in music. And if you're not like a singer, then just turn it on. Turn it on your phone. That you could be singing "Christ the Lord is risen today," and sing it every day. So that way your kids know, Christ the Lord is risen today. Another one I thought about, there's the call and response, the Lord is risen, he is risen indeed, to teach that to your kids so that when it happens at church, they know what to do. And you can even make a game out of it, like play hide and seek. And when one person says, the Lord is risen, the other says, he's risen indeed. And they have to try to find you. If you have little children, there's a really good song called Shout Hosanna by the Donut Man. That's like from way back when I was a kid. But we sing that all the time with my kids, and it's like jumping and active, and the little ones are part of it. Another thing I was thinking that would take a little work if you have young children, so maybe reading the actual like words of scripture might feel a little heavy, and maybe even doing the resurrection eggs feels far-fetched to you. Maybe someone's not from a place of a faith background, that might feel intimidating even. Miss Patacake has an excellent DVD or video on Easter and resurrection, and uses these eggs in it to help tell the story. And my kids watch it almost every day. They'll watch it once, the little ones, leading up to the week of Easter, just because it's solidifying those true things for them.
And there's a couple VeggieTale ones that are great Easter ones too.
Yes, an Easter Carol is one of them.
Yeah.
So many wonderful resources. So I think you guys have just done an excellent job sharing ideas for little ones and also older ones, and for our own hearts. That our hearts, just as importantly as we prioritize our children's hearts, like we are children of the Lord who just as importantly need to have our hearts prepared and stilled. And so maybe that would be a good, just last thought is taking time yourself to still yourself, to prepare your heart for Easter. So thank you so much, Becky, for being here again. And thank you, Michelle, for coming back with us today.
Definitely.
Luke 24:6 says, he is not here, he has risen. And that is a reason to celebrate. That is a reason why we do everything we do this week, and why we're going to put forth the extra effort to make this a week that matters for our family. And with that, we talked about a lot of fun things and a lot of deep, meaningful things that will create lasting memories for your family. But I would encourage you also, if your children are older, don't shy away from talking about the hard things of this week as well. That if your children are of an age where it would be appropriate to watch The Passion and to go to the hard places and to see the hard things and to talk about the hard things, to have tears together, that is beautiful and that is important. And if it was important enough for Jesus to do, then it's worth us taking the space and the time to have that conversation and have those moments with our children. So don't be afraid to go there. With that said, I know that you enjoyed hearing from Becky and from Michelle today. And if you would like to hear more from Becky, she is like the queen of traditions and celebrating life. You can go back to one of our earlier podcasts about celebrating family traditions with your family that we did earlier a few months ago. And with Michelle, we have done some wonderful podcasts. One of them is so many moms have just been encouraged by about rest for the weary mom. If you're a little worn out, it might bless you. And another one we did about sex and intimacy that I know has been a real encouragement in a lot of marriages. And before I close today, I want to just give a quick shout out to you guys listening from all over the world. It has been so exciting to see people worldwide, from Compton to Centennial, Colorado, to people in New Zealand listening, and in the Middle East listening, in South America, in Texas, we've got a bunch of listeners. So thank you. It's just so exciting to see a passion for motherhood and think about the commonality that we share around the world of this calling of raising our children to be men and women who follow the Lord. So exciting to join in with you in your mission of motherhood. And I can't wait to see you next week. Have a wonderful Easter week.
Thank you for joining us today. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss any of our weekly conversations. And check out our show notes below, where I have links to the resources mentioned on the podcast. I release a new podcast every Monday and additional content at seekholyliving.com, including a video of this conversation and a deeper dive into all things mom. Also, be sure to follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Seek Holy Living for more fun and conversation. If this was an encouragement to you, please share it with your friends.
And join us next time as we talk about priorities in work and home.